Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. I'm very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Hello and welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to Tuesday's edition of the dceu Daily. If you want to continue this or any other conversation I ignite, you can do over on my Twitter at MoviesTVMad, my Vero at BigMouth1, and the extension to this channel, excluding a couple of off-the-cuff odd videos, is my Instagram, Big Mouth. So welcome, yes, do sit down, get the popcorn out, and I want you to enjoy along with me Tuesday's edition of the dceu Daily. Now, I'm going to read you an article about Patty Jenkins' plans for Wonder Woman and beyond, but it's come to my attention that apparently Patty said this, that the longest cut of Wonder Woman 1984 is 2 hours 45 minutes. I'm not the type of director to make a 3.5-hour movie. Now, fellow Snyder fans and Snyder stans have started attacking Patty over this, saying she's trying to criticise Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder's her boss. He's executive producing Wonder Woman 1984 along with his production company. She would be pretty stupid to do that. Plus, I don't believe this quote, and if this quote is true, she didn't mean it as anything negative towards Zack. Think about it. If she did, it would be stupid. What does she get out of it? She's saying she's not capable of making a 3.5-hour movie. Come off of it. So calm down on Patty Jenkins. She's a glorious lady, brilliant. She did a great job with the first Wonder Woman movie, and I'm really excited to see what she's got planned next. That takes me nicely, see how I did that? Nicely to this E! Entertainment article. Wonder Woman 3 and Amazon spin-off are all mapped out, says Patty Jenkins. Wonder Woman remains one of the DC and Warner Bros. Most lucrative franchises, which means you bet director Patty Jenkins is looking beyond the new sequel, Wonder Woman 1984. During this year's CCXP, the Brazilian Comic Con convention, Jenkins and Diana Prince in the flesh, Gal Gadot, told reporters that they have already mapped out Wonder Woman 3 and a spin-off film focusing on the stories of the Amazons of Themyscira. But fans shouldn't hold their breath just yet, assuming they don't have Aquaman lungs. We actually already know the whole story to Wonder Woman 3, and then some, because there is an Amazon spin-off movie, as well as so we already have it all. Hang on, let's start again. I've got a bit stuck there, sorry. Assuming they don't have Aquaman lungs, this is what she said. We actually already know the whole story to Wonder Woman 3, and then some, because there is an Amazon spin-off movie as well. And so we already have it all mapped out, Jenkins told reporters. So that's a quote, and that's brilliant, from a multiple media outlets, including Collider and Deadline. It's just a matter of will we change our minds, and when? Basically, right, look, there's no mind changing. It's going to happen. I don't know why she said that at the end there, but this is what studios, creatives and directors do. 1 minute they're exciting you, then they say, well, we may change our minds. Basically, there's nothing in concrete here. They have plans. Now, if Wonder Woman 84 was a failure, which it won't be, but if it was, they can't do this. So they've got to be careful. So maybe she said it without thinking. Then she said, well, you never know, we might change our minds. So we'll have to see what happens there. So it's not a very long article, actually, but we did speak about this yesterday as well. But basically, Patty Jenkins clearly does have a plan for the Wonder Woman franchise. It looks like Warner Bros. And Walter Hamada want to do spin-offs as well. So that would be very, very exciting. How would all this work? Well, this works simply by Patty Jenkins bringing in another director and her being part of the creative process, while meanwhile working on Wonder Woman 3. She's probably already starting to sit down with Jeff Johns to work on Wonder Woman 3 as well. So what it is, it's an air of confidence. They've already got plans for this Wonder Woman franchise because it's going swimmingly well. Now, could there be trouble in the horizon, on the horizon even? We know there's multiple cuts of this movie, like there is every movie. We know one of the cuts, thanks to me and Grace Randolph and a lot of people, that one of these cuts is a course correction of the DCEU. One of them creates a flashpoint situation. I'm going to give you details of this. Now, I haven't seen this cut of the movie. The test screening I saw was very different, but it doesn't mean only 90 minutes, don't forget, so it certainly wasn't a finished version of the movie. But what I will say is, yes, it's not necessarily the one that's going to go to theatres. It could be this flashpoint thing. So how does this all work? Well, basically, we know the story of Wonder Woman 1984. We know that Pedro Pascal's character has some object that can grant you wishes. We know with those wishes comes bad luck as well. We know ultimately Steve Trevor will die again. That's something that Diana already knows. So what she does is I'll give you an example. Maybe she asks the gods or someone else for the power to keep him alive. They warn her, if she does this, it will change everything. It will change time. It will change space. It will change the multi-earths. Maybe it'll be the first time the multi-earths are mentioned within the DCEU. And in a selfish act, because she loves him so much, she says, yes, do it. Which changes everything. It changes maybe what Superman looks like, what Batman looks like, what the Joker looks like. We've already had Jared Leto's one. So what this could actually do, something very, very clever, this could bring in Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, Robert Pattinson's The Batman, all in the same universe, all in this new DCEU. So that's what could happen. It may not happen. I don't think they've chosen the cut yet. There's so many decisions for them to make. Zack Snyder is the kind of rebel with a cause, isn't he? With this Snyder cut movement as well. So we are at a place right now where we really don't know what's going on with the Snyder cut. We don't know if they've decided to release it or not. I think talks are probably ongoing, but they have a decision to make. They have a decision to make. Come back with Zack Snyder. Come back with his Justice League Snyder cut. Or say, do you know what, Zack? We're just not going to do it. We're going to do this course correction. If Wonder Woman indeed does do this flashpoint, it will give problems for the movie and its box office. This may upset people, but then we know that hardcore DC Comics fans don't like the Snyderverse. We know that. A lot of them don't like it. And this maybe may make the box office even more successful. We simply don't know what direction this is going to go in. I believe it's an option. I believe they could use this Flashpoint Wonder Woman 1984. Is that exciting? It would be terrible for all of us who are fighting to release the Snyder Cut, of course, but it'd be terribly exciting for people who didn't like the Snyderverse, who despise the Snyderverse. So it's a very interesting situation. We really don't know what they've decided to do. If they've decided to do any of this, I want your comments down below. I want you to let me know what you think about all this. Do you want them to course correct the Snyderverse, or do you want the Snyderverse to stand? Please let me know. But don't get into Patty Jenkins just yet. Her comments about the 3.5 hour thing were taken out of context. Zack Snyder's her boss. Zack Snyder employed her. She's not going to start giving him shade. Come on, use your brains. Have you got any? Which I'm sure you have. So yes, bloggers and pundits and critics were allowed an on-set visit of Birds of Prey, The Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. And this is from a site, and I'm going to read this out to you because Kathy Yang has said, the director has said some interesting things. And I'm going to give you my take on this after we finish with this. Birds of Prey is bringing together more than the iconic girl gang from the comics. Well, we know that. That's one of the things the comic book fans are not very happy about. Harley Quinn just wants some fucking coleslaw. It's March the 12th, 2019. And on the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank, California, one of the key scenes in Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn is being shot. It's funny how I always forget the fantabulous version. It's just such a long title, isn't it? This is day 41 of 64 on the production, and the scene features Renee Montoya, Rosie Perez, finally tracking down Cassandra Cain, Ella J. Basco, who happens to be in the middle of the whole big mess involving the huntress Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Black Canary, Journey Smollett Bell, and of course Harley Quinn herself, played by Margot Robbie. Harley can't understand why Renee, a Gotham City police officer, is after her. Renee says it's because people like Harley, the Joker, and Black Mask, Ewan McGregor, feel like they are above the law. But Harley says she doesn't think she's above the law. It's that the law is beneath her. In fact, the only law she trusts is coleslaw. Coleslaw, she ponders, in a room loaded with weapons and the possibility of death. You really are fucking psychopath, Renee says. It's a joke, of course, but it's also a perfect example of just how off the wall everyone behind Bird of Prey wants the movie to be. First of all, though, no one would fess up to this being a hard R-rated movie. The number of fucks in 5 minutes seen being shot when we're on set, most of them screamed by a pre-teen girl, suggested otherwise. Pulp Fiction meets Rashomon is how director Kathy Yan describes the movie, which is a standalone origin story for the Birds of Prey, according to producer Sue Kroll, and set almost in a parallel universe, according to Yan. So, did Suicide Squad happen? Does Batman exist here? Is Billy Batson a few cities away? No one knows for sure, and that's also because Harley Quinn is telling this story. I'm going to talk about this in a minute. The film isn't in any time, said production designer K.K. Barrett. You see, that's just dumb, isn't it? But never mind. It's in the story time that exists in by itself, like the characters being in their own heads. The world the story takes place over could be many different decades. It's not any singular time. There's nothing that adheres it to now or to then. It could be a story that's told and made up. These are, and there's a little bit of fiction and lies going on, so you can really trust you can't really trust what you see. Okay, that's not dumb. That's an interesting concept, and I'll talk about why they're doing it like this, though. So what exactly is happening in Birds of Prey? Well, the plot revolves around a couple of criminals, McGregor's Roman Sinios and Victor Zsasz, played by Chris Messina, trying to capture the aforementioned young girl, Cassandra Cain. The only thing standing in their way is the unlikely scenario where Harley, Huntress Canary and Renee Montoya team up to stop them. The scene we saw shot back in March basically brings all of the storylines and characters together in a 10 funny third act scene that sets the stage to what's likely a massive action set piece, pitting the ever combustible Birds of Prey against a shitload of street gangs. I first actually pitched the notion when we were actually still shooting Suicide Squad, Robbie said, who is also a producer on the film as well as its star. I kept saying Harley does so much better when she has people to play with. I kept thinking that in real life I had such a girl gang, like my group of girlfriends, and I just want Harley to have a girl gang. I just wanted to be like a girl gang for Harley to be part of. And then obviously I'd been reading a ton of the comics, and anything involving Harley in one of the separate line of comics is the Birds of Prey, which I started reading, and Harley's not a traditional member of the Birds of Prey. Another bone of contention, Margot. But it was a fun kind of girl gang to kind of dip in and out, I suppose. The story wants to be grounded too, with much lower stakes than most superhero movies, and so Robbie said she and writer Christina Hodson started with one character as the way into it. It really started with Huntress, Robbie said. I just loved Huntress, and with my initial pitch on the story, I said I wanted to keep it quite contained. Get no bigger and no world-ending stakes, like the stakes were as big as perhaps mafia level or gang level as kind of a basis. From there, it was kind of just building a team that Robbie thought was right. After Huntress, it kind of fleshed out from there, she said, which other members kind of counterbalanced her revenge story and Harley's version of what's right and wrong. You kind of needed a more moral character like Renee Montoya. We needed a cop in there. Canary obviously is so crucial to the Birds of Prey. We really wanted to introduce her as well. And then Kaz, Christina, the writer, and I actually spoke about a lot of our favourite films and wanted to pay homage to a few things. But Leon the Professional was one of them. And we just loved that relationship, the mentor and the mentee. A very unexpected friendship. We kind of found ourselves gravitating towards that as well. Aesthetically, Birds of Prey has that same kind of ragtag, electric, diverse vibe. It feels like a world that we'd want to explore more of, something unique and vibrant. I wanted to kind of blow up whatever my preconception was of a comic book character or a hero's world, said Barrett. Make it pop yet dirty, because I felt like those were the streets that Harley trod through. Untouched, she can kind of go anywhere. She can go high, she can go low. Nothing affects her, and she comes through unscathed. To that effect, all the costumes were designed to work in very specific nighttime lights, and even the props all have some kind of weird killer clown aesthetic. Just spikes and wires and everything real bright and messy. Even the scene we saw shot took place on top of a funhouse called the Booby Trap, which will feature huge slides, trampolines and more, like a real-life indoor circus. And yet, Robbie and the team know this is ultimately Harley Quinn's movie, so fans will get her greatest hits. She has roller skates, pet hyenas, and a stuffed beaver named Bernie. You'll probably see some sort of large hammer. One thing she won't have is that pesky boyfriend of hers, the Joker, or that toxic male. Shh. Something I explored a lot in Suicide Squad was Harley's codependency with the Joker, Robbie said. Obviously, he has a huge influence on her, but I did want to explore what is the version of Harley out of the relationship, and whether she's out of the relationship on her own accord, or if he kind of kicked her to the curb, it still affects her, but in a very different way. And I thought we'd see very different facets of her personalities. Personalities, I would say, because I think she has multiple. The reason she kicks the Joker to the curb, or maybe he does, is because they don't want to go forward with Jared Leto anymore. That's the truth. But there's a lot of doublespeak in this industry. That describes Birds of Prey 2, a movie with multiple personalities, something that will be aware of other DC comics. But trying to blaze its own trail, something that creates its own look and feel, but also borrows from the comics. Things may even get emotional and poignant along the way. To me, the story is super compelling and personal, because it is about emancipation, you said, about women almost being competitive with one another and bringing each other down, but also because of our own inabilities to feel so powerless, and the stranglehold that is the patriarchy. Oh dear, and the stranglehold that is the patriarchy. She's talking about us, men, right? Especially, I think, set against the backdrop of Me Too. Oh my God, she actually mentioned me and what has been happening in our industry. Margot, no, we're going to talk about this in a minute. In the last few years, so that definitely infiltrated its way into my pitch as well. So for me, this film was so much more than a superhero film about like, and the first girl gang film or any of that really has compelling narrative and theme to it that is very, very personal. Margot, listen to me. If you were dealing with homeless children and children being abused by their parents, right, it would be compelling commentary. Talking about me Too or us, the patriarchy, isn't compelling. Personal renaissance mixed with timely themes as well, as F-bombs and coleslaw signs up. Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn opens February the 7th. Look, we've heard this all before from Ewan McGregor, so let's start at the very top. So the concept of this film is it might not be part of anything. So this is kind of an Elseworld story. This is could be in Harley's mind. It could be all total bullshit. This film's a bit like Joker movie, where we don't know what's in his head and what's not in his head. So basically, they've made this film, tried not to connect it to Suicide Squad. So at the end of the film, could it all be a fantasy? Could it be real? Because she is in the James Gunn's The Suicide Squad as well. I don't mind that concept. The reason they don't really want to name drop the first Suicide Squad, because it's a divisive film and they wanted to step away from that. Just like Aquaman wanted to keep away from the Justice League movie and just mentioned Steppenwolf once and nothing else from the film. So I get that. It sounds exciting, it sounds fantabulous, as part of the title is, but then we get to the conversation about the patriarchy. The patriarchy, for anyone who doesn't understand, and I've just explained it, is me and you, men, toxic males, right? And then she mentions Me Too. Now, Me Too is about sexual harassment towards women in the industry. Now, this video might get taken down after I say this, but I'm going to say it. Do you know how long sex for favours has been going on? You don't. Since the inception of Hollywood, since they produced the same film, a woman comes up to a well-connected producer, offers him sex for favours. We saw what happened with Kevin Sujihara, and then she gets the parts. How do you think Margot Robbie became famous? How do you think any of them became famous? Is this right? No. Is it right that women have to sleep their way to the top in this industry? Of course not. So there's now ultimately there's issues in Hollywood where men do overstep the bounds, and that is true. But let's not just pretend this is a male against female thing, Margot. I know of so many powerful females in Hollywood who sexually harass younger artists and promise them a promising career. But that's never talked about. No, they want to talk about Me Too. They want to talk about what's going on in the industry right now. And they want to bring it into a comic book movie. Again, this is hugely disappointing. And I'm sure it's hugely disappointing whether you're a male or you're a female. Now, later on, I'm going to react to the episode 2 of the Harley Quinn animated series. I will do a video about that because this subject comes up again. Of course, it's disappointing, but you know what's really funny and ironic about this whole thing? That most of Harley Quinn's fandom are men. They're men. Us. That's the film she's doing. Basically, she's going to make a film about toxic males. The patriarchy. The patriarchy in the form of Joker. Very similar to the Harley Quinn animated series. They're doing this a lot. Now, do I believe this will be blatant? No, it won't be. It will be there, but it will be under the table. It will be a fun, exciting film. Look, it's a DC film. I'm going to support it. I'm not going to boycott it because of this. But I'm saddened that she thinks this is commentary that's important. These are very, very privileged women. Very privileged women. They're very successful in the industry. If they're not moaning about not getting as much as the men, and I mean the ones who deserve to get it, but not all of them. And not all of them because some men get it because they're successful and some women don't because they're not as successful, right? That's the truth. The women who deserve to get paid as much or more do. Margot Robbie got paid more than most of the male actors in the Suicide Squad film. In fact, Margot Robbie got paid more than Viola Davis. Right? In Suicide Squad. We know that. Viola didn't come out and start complaining about that. They choose their battles very, very carefully. And this is the sad thing, and I always say this about this industry. It's become very, very political. It's become very, very anti-man. When a leading actor like Margot Robbie can decide to make a film and inject an anti-patriarchy, anti-men theme into it and not be called a sexist because that's what it is. And I have a lot of time for Margot. She's a very polite, upstanding woman. I like her. She's very respectful to people. She started off in an Australian soap called Neighbours, and she went back for the anniversary when she could have just stayed in Hollywood. So I respect her a great deal. She's a great woman. But at the end of the day, this isn't the kind of commentary. You see, this isn't the biggest problem in the world, the patriarchy. Let's be honest. She's already spoken about Suicide Squad being too male-gazing, and I kind of agree about that. But let's be honest here. They're attacking straight men for being straight men, right? They know that they are basically, they're the magnet and they pull us towards them. Now, they can't help that, but our biology is our biology. And attacking that, at the end of the day, because I'm only a white male in his 40s, so I'm very flawed, but so are they. They're very flawed. And they're very toxic as well. There's lots of toxic femininity out there. There's women who pinch men's backsides. There's women who wolf whistle. But nobody talks about that. Nobody's going to make a film about that. So I am disappointed with what she had to say. It really, really is disappointing. But there you go. There you have it. And there's nothing more to be said about that, really. Go and watch the movie. I certainly will. But at the end of the day, it's disappointing to hear that kind of talk. On a brighter note, I forgot to play you this yesterday. Here's Ryan Reynolds.
Was a character who basically made like $1 billion with a variety of different inventions and that sort of thing. And he has this moment that something kind of somewhat terrible happens to him, and he witnesses something terrible and decides to use his money instead to make a difference and sort of bypass all the government sort of nonsense that you usually have to go through to take out a dictator. So he recruits these 5 other people. Each of them have a very specialized skill set, and they form this team in kind of a reluctant family. Which I guess what I'm trying to say is this is the Snyder Cut.
Well, and afterwards he goes, oh, whoops, I'm on the wrong panel. Now, Ryan Reynolds is a very, very intelligent man. He's a really good actor. He's done really well for himself. He just looks like a good-looking guy, harmless. But I want to tell you why he's backing. He's backing this movement. He's brought it up on a big panel on his next movie, which is Netflix. I'm looking forward to it. It's got great cast. Directed by Michael Bay, one of my favourite directors as well. I know he's got his critics, but nobody makes a movie, apart from Zack Snyder, look as good as Michael Bay. What would a Superman movie look like directed by Michael Bay? That would be freaking nuts. Nearly as crazy as Quentin Tarantino doing Star Trek, which doesn't look like it's going to happen. So let's talk about this. Why has Ryan Reynolds inserted himself into our movement? And he has. This is a massive statement. Always see the smoke signals when Hollywood people talk. This is not just about making a joke. He literally described the synopsis for this film going up against kind of this big, powerful organization. And, you know, they get together, these people, and they become a family, a little bit like the Snyder Cut. He's calling us a family. He's on our side. But why would an actor with nothing to gain decide to back us? Because they did the same thing to him. I may have mentioned this on one of my videos before. They did. They cast him as Green Lantern. This was a massive opportunity for him. He was going to be in an awesome Green Lantern movie, right? And they fucked him. They fucked him because Warner Brothers interfered with this movie. This was going to be a great movie. And it became, at the end, bad decisions were made. Clearly, they weren't prudent enough in CGI technology to make a CGI costume at that time. It should have been a proper kind of real costume that he wore. And, you know, with lighting or something, they could have made it look awesome. There's things, right? So basically, they did to him what they did to Zack Snyder. And I want to kind of clarify this as well. I want to go to, not just to David Ayer, but I want to go to Bryan Singer. Now, Bryan Singer's got a really bad name right now because of what he's allegedly been doing in his private life, but I don't want to talk about that right now. Superman Returns, I love Superman Returns. Superman Returns has its issues and maybe it was ill-conceived to continue from Superman 2, but I still think it could have worked. But again, they fucked Bryan Singer, right? He had a great movie planned, a pre-opening credit scene where we actually see Kal-El, adult Kal-El, Superman, flying to the remains of Krypton. It's on your deleted DVD part of the Superman Returns Blu-ray, right, if you want to check it out. I always play it before I watch Superman Returns, and it really helps. They cut that out. They didn't let him add it to the movie. He was asked, and he said, well, a movie's never completed for a director, which is kind of true, but he was spinning because they cut many things from Superman Returns. And like we're all fighting for the Snyder Cut, I tried to fight for that Superman Returns director's cut for years, and only a few of us were involved. What a stark contrast with the Snyder Cut now. So this is why Ryan Reynolds is involved, because he knows Warner Brothers. He knows what they've done. Now, they may be trying to sort their shit out now, but at the end of the day, I'm explaining to you why Ryan Reynolds is so invested. He's a great guy, and what he did, he took control. Basically, he got fortunate enough to be cast as Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine, right? And then that was a crap version, but then he took control with a bunch of producers and went to Fox and said, I want to make a movie about Deadpool. I know what to do. And look what he did. People don't like the second one as much, but it's still an awesome, fun movie, right? Imagine if they actually listened to him with Green Lantern. What happened with Green Lantern was a tragedy. Now, actually, there is actually a director's cut of Green Lantern. It doesn't solve all the problems. I actually think there's elements of the Green Lantern movie that are amazing. Amazing. I think the opening sequence when we see them explain about Oa and we go on to Oa and we see all that, it's beautiful. It's a great start for the movie. I think a lot of it is really good. I think the costume is problematic. But I don't actually think it's a bad movie, and I really enjoyed it. So why didn't it make a lot of money? That's the question we have to ask, because they messed around with it. It would have been a better movie if they listened. I don't even think they had the great... Listen, the director is great, but he wasn't suited to make this film. I don't even know what made them. They saw GoldenEye with Pierce Brosnan, and he did a good job with that, and they thought, yeah, he can do action. But there were so many better suited directors to do that film. So that's why Ryan Reynolds is so invested in all of this. So, what do you think about all the stuff I've been talking about today? Do you agree with me that we shouldn't be attacking Patty Jenkins? Are you looking forward to her Wonder Woman franchise vision, the Wonder Woman Homeworld spin-off, Wonder Woman 3? What do you think about potentially them doing this Flashpoint thing in Wonder Woman 1984? Not even I know what they've decided yet. Please comment down below. What do you think about Margot Robbie attacking men in Birds of Prey in the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think us men are terrible? Do you think it's not in our biology and we can help being attracted to beautiful women? And let me just say this before I go. I am, and a lot of men are attracted to beautiful women. And it's right. Most sane, fair-minded men wouldn't harass a woman, wouldn't invade her space, and wouldn't make her uncomfortable. I don't. I admire women from afar. Very far, right? Very far. And I don't even, if I see an attractive woman, I literally like this, I just look away. Because sometimes I'm captivated by them so much, I can't even talk to them. When I see a beautiful woman, I can't even talk to her. So there's no chance of me making her feel uncomfortable. So it's right, a woman should feel comfortable. No matter how beautiful, no matter what she's wearing, she has no right to be attacked. No one has a right to force themselves on a woman or make her feel uncomfortable. I totally agree with that. But saying that, we live in a very sexualized society. Go to Instagram, go to Twitter. On Twitter, they allow these women to do their OnlyFans, and they're getting their bits out. Now that's fair enough. They're trying to make a living. They're kind of legal sex workers, and I get it, right? But my point is here, there's a lot of men who aren't right up there, who have psychological problems, and they don't know where the line is drawn. And what makes me laugh with people like Margot Robbie and Hollywood and all these big companies, they're quite happy to use sex to sell to men, but they're also happy to start talking about the patriarchy. Men are flawed, but so are women. All humans are. Should we all start making films about women and about their toxicity and how they treat men? No, because it's not fashionable. So I think we need to dial this back. But Hollywood will continue doing this. It's a sad state of affairs, but as I've said before, you see that cupboard over there where you can't? It's full of my Blu-rays from my childhood, and I can watch them, and nobody can stop me watching male-gazy films. I can watch Carry On, I can watch James Bond, and there's nothing that Margot Robbie or the rest of Hollywood can do to stop me. See you tomorrow.